This is my literature assignment that I am doing to do a cross-curricular study between language arts and social studies. The books that I'm going to be using are two by Mary Pope Osborne, and they're part of the Magic Treehouse series. The first one is book number 2, which is The Night at Dawn. And the second one, which I unfortunately don't have any longer, is the fact tracker on knights and castles of the Middle Ages that accompanies this book. The Night at Dawn book is a fictional text that follows Jack and Annie, the two main characters in all of the Magic Treehouse books, as they go on an adventure in the Middle Ages. And they explore a castle, meet a knight, and have quite an adventure trying to get back to their Magic Treehouse and back to their homes. Their home in the Frog Creek Woods of Pennsylvania. The Fact Tracker is a nonfiction text that goes along with the Jack and Annie story and kind of has Jack and Annie narrate through actual facts about the Middle Ages. It covers different aspects of culture as well as history, geography, economics. The only thing that it really doesn't talk about is government in context of the curriculum standards. The book has a very neat way of presenting information by having the two main characters, Jack and Annie, talk as if, they're speaking with other 8 and 10-year-olds and talking about neat things. Jack wears glasses in the book, and one of the things he talks about is that glasses were first created during the Middle Ages, and just interesting facts that kids really would like and relate to. The way that I would use this text would be to really study the culture and society of the Middle Ages by presenting first the Night at Dawn text and reading that so that it really engages the students, grabs their interest in the Middle Ages. Hopefully it's characters that they might even be familiar with, and really, have them start to be interested in the Middle Ages in that time period. From then, we would then study more factual information, tying in with the fact tracker text and the interesting things that Jack and Annie present to us, as well as Mary Pope Osborne presents by way of timelines, drawings, diagrams, and different information. I would then take that and have my students first really look at the shelter that was used during the Middle Ages, which was a castle that could sometimes take up to 20 years to build, and was also built with a lot of great thought, looking into different aspects of the castle and how they relate to safety and security, and have the students break up into small groups and talk about, if they were going to design a castle, what would be those elements that they would feel were necessary, and actually come up with a design including the elements that are part of the fact tracker, which tells you why was a moat important, why were different towers important to a castle when it came to safety, and have those small groups put together a castle. Once we're finished with designing our castle, we would then look at knights and the protection that they provided for those castles. What exactly did they do? Where were they placed within the surround of that castle to protect it? What about their armor? Why were knights so important to the owners of those castles? And as a result, how were they treated? They, lived great, lavish lives inside those castle walls, but they paid the ultimate price by sacrificing their lives. The students would then go back and they would discuss inside their castle the knights that were going to protect it. How were they going to protect it? What kind of armor would they wear? Which is another thing that's discussed in the fact tracker, the different kind of armor, the different kind of tools that were used to defend the castle, what the greatest threats were during the Middle Ages to those castles. After they've kind of placed that second part of their design of their Middle Age castle, they would then look at, well, who are the knights protecting? The kings, the queens, as well as the servants. What were the differences between those two lives? How did their shelter, their food, their clothing differ? Looking at, great lavish lifestyles, and then, pretty much poverty-stricken lifestyles of the servants that served these people, and how they all coexisted within the walls of this castle, which was really almost a small, town that these, landowners had. The groups would then meet again together, and they would kind of put the finishing touches on their society and put together their culture, and then present it all to the class of their own little Middle Ages society that they have put together within the castle walls. I would then assess their understanding by giving them a short answer, and kind of couple it with a creative writing aspect of, it doesn't necessarily, it has to contain factual elements, but you can also make your short answer be something that is of your own creation. I would ask them to choose either a king or queen, a knight, or a servant, and describe in detail what their life was like during the Middle Ages, making sure that they touch on what their shelter was, what their food was, what the clothing was, and what their duties were. And, you know, they can be as creative as they want to with that short answer and really get into it, and which is what I hope they would do. Or they, you know, can give me the basic information to be proficient in their understanding of Middle-aged society. Either way, the goal would be to assess their understanding of what the Middle Ages time was, and how the people that lived within that time period functioned as a society and culture together.